You rest in the quiet of night, your body sinking into the softness beneath you. The world around you slows, and the small details of the day fade into shadows. Somewhere beyond edges of thought, space opens wide, stretching far beyond what your eyes can ever see. You find yourself floating, drifting through that endless canvas, carried gently, as though the universe itself is rocking you toward sleep. Ahead, the stars scatter like dust across velvet. They shimmer, but in one direction there is an absence, a patch of sky where nothing gleams. No star, no glimmer, only darkness, profound and patient. It is here, in this hidden corner, that you approach something stranger than imagination, yet more real than the breath you carry. You approach a black hole. It does not reveal itself in brightness. It cannot. A black hole swallows light itself, leaving behind no reflection, no silhouette, no surface. What you notice instead is what it takes away. The stars near it bend, their light distorted, as if you were looking through a window of water that ripples in silence. Space curves, folds, and warps around the unseen mass. You sense gravity here not as a word, not as a concept, but as a weightless pull, a presence stronger than any anchor on Earth. You drift closer, but there is no fear. The darkness does not shout. It does not threaten. It is silent, calm, and still. This silence is deeper than the silence of a room or the silence of a night sky. It is the silence of everything falling inward, the quiet of inevitability. You let yourself linger here, sensing the truth. This is not a void of nothing. It is a well of power, a hidden engine. A black hole begins when a massive star ends its life. Imagine a star many times the size of our own sun, so heavy that it burns through its fuel in a furious rush. When the fuel is gone, the outward pressure that once fought against gravity fades. The star collapses inward under its own immense weight. For a moment, the collapse may ignite a spectacular supernova, a final blaze seen across galaxies. But in the center, what remains is something gravity will not let go. Matter compacts tighter, denser, smaller, until no known force can stop the inward pull. The result, a black hole. You picture it not as an object, but as a threshold, a place in space where the escape velocity, the speed needed to break free from gravity, exceeds even the speed of light. Light itself, the fastest traveler you know, cannot outrun it. So the black hole remains hidden, not because it is absent, but because it is absolute. What lies within its boundary, the event horizon, is sealed to the outside forever. Yet in this silence, paradox brews. From the deepest darkness, energy emerges. The black hole itself may stay unseen, but what gathers around it tells another story. Gas, dust, even whole stars are drawn inward. They spiral like dancers, circling faster, growing hotter, until they shine with furious light before crossing the point of no return. It is here, at the very edge of silence, that creation and destruction intertwine. You hover at this edge, watching. The darkness feels vast, endless, but you notice a subtle pulse in it, like the hush before a storm. In your mind, you feel the weight of questions. How can something that consumes everything give rise to energy that stretches across galaxies? How can stillness release fire? The paradox begins to soften when you consider the hidden structure at work. Though the black hole swallows what falls inside, it does not swallow instantly. Material collects in a disk, spinning like water circling a drain. In that disk lies friction, and friction brings heat. The particles rub against each other, compressed and accelerated by gravity, glowing brighter and brighter until the darkness is rimmed with radiance. The black hole itself remains unseen, but its edges glow like a lantern. Still, you sense that there is more than light here. Something else is waiting, coiled in the silence, ready to release. You imagine a black hole as a great breath, drawn inward without end. Yet somehow, some of this inward motion is transformed into an outward blaze, into colossal jets that pierce the void. You have not seen them yet, but you can feel the hint of their presence, like the faint vibration of a train still far away. In this moment, the silence holds you. Your body relaxes deeper, your breathing steady, as if you, too, are falling inward. The stillness comforts you, for you realize that black holes are not monsters, but mysteries. They are not hungry mouths, but thresholds. They are reminders that even in the deepest darkness, there's a hidden power waiting to be revealed. The stars nearby continue to shimmer, their light stretched into delicate arcs by the invisible gravity. Space feels elastic, pliable, bending under forces you cannot see. You drift through it as though floating a dream, with no edges, no floor, no ceiling, only the curved pathways carved by gravity's unseen hands. You surrender to that flow, as if your body knows it is safe to rest in the embrace of something larger than yourself. You think of silence again, the silence that a black hole embodies. It is not empty silence. It is not the absence of sound, but the fullness of stillness. A silence that contains the memory of stars, the weight of galaxies, the potential of fire. To rest in this silence is to rest in the heart of the universe itself. Your mind softens around the edges of thought. You do not need to hold tightly to the facts, to the physics, to the definitions. You only need to sense what they mean. That in the place where light falters, energy waits. In the place where stars collapse, the seeds of new creation stir. You breathe, slowly, deeply. The quiet holds you. Somewhere ahead, in the gathering glow of the accretion disk, matter is circling faster, brighter, hotter. The stillness will not stay still forever. The silence is only the beginning. Soon, motion will rise, and from the hidden power of this darkness, fire will leap outward into space. But for now, you rest at the edge, floating in the hush of a black hole, letting your thoughts stretch and curve like light near its horizon. You are calm, weightless, and at peace, held in the presence of silent darkness, a hidden power. And as you drift deeper into that stillness, you begin to wonder what happens next, when the swirling matter at the edge of the abyss awakens and begins its endless dance. You linger now at the threshold of the black hole, where the silence of chapter 1 begins to shift into motion. The darkness is not alone. Around it matter gathers, swirling like autumn leaves caught in a circular wind. This is the accretion disk, a luminous embrace that forms at the edge of the abyss. You see it before you, a glowing ring stretched wide across the blackness, curving like a halo of fire. It turns endlessly, as if time itself is caught in its spin. Gas and dust, the remnants of stars, broken fragments of ancient galaxies, all find themselves drawn inward, unable to resist the pull. But they do not fall straight into darkness. They orbit, spiral, collide, and dance. At first, the movement seems chaotic. Clouds of gas crash into one another. Fragments tear apart. Dust rubs against dust. But as you watch, a rhythm emerges. Like a great orchestra tuning its instruments, the noise becomes music. Friction warms the particles, heating them until they shine. You notice their glow is not steady but alive, rippling, flickering, changing moment by moment. The black hole's silence is framed now by light. You drift closer and the sight becomes more intimate. Imagine a single atom, carried by this river of matter. It falls inward, circling, brushing past other atoms. Each collision robs of a little energy. Each brush slows it, guiding it closer to the center. Heat rises. The temperature soars to millions of degrees, hot enough to shine not just in visible light, but in X-rays, invisible to human eyes but strong enough to pierce space. It is strange to think that what seems destructive, this spiraling inward, this breaking apart, is also the source of beauty. The chaos of collisions becomes the very reason the disk glows. Without friction, without struggle, the matter would remain dark. But because it resists, because it collides, it turns into radiance. You breathe slowly, sensing how even in your own life, friction and resistance sometimes give rise to unexpected light. The disk spins faster the closer you move inward. At the outer edges, the motion is slower, gentler, like the wide arcs of planets circling a sun. But near the black hole's boundary, the dance becomes frantic. Particles whip around at nearly the speed of light, completing an orbit in mere milliseconds. The difference between the calm outer rim and the furious inner ring is staggering. Yet somehow, the entire structure holds together, unified by gravity's steady hand. You let yourself imagine standing at the edge of this cosmic whirlpool. Though there is no ground to stand on, you feel the pull inward, yet also the speed of the orbit, holding you in balance. Like a tightrope walker swaying between falling and flying, the particles move in a delicate compromise. They cannot stop, yet they cannot escape. And so they turn endlessly, like dancers at the brink of exhaustion. Here, relativity whispers. The faster matter moves, the more its time slows compared to the quiet stars far away. To the particles near the event horizon, time stretches, seconds lengthen, minutes dissolve. From your perspective, you see them whirl with ferocity. But if you could step inside their frame of existence, you would feel the stretch, the long unfolding of each orbit. In this dance, even time bends, pulled into the rhythm of gravity. The beauty of the disk is not constant. Sometimes it flickers brighter, sometimes it dims. These changes are like the breathing of the system, pulses of light echoing outward into the universe. Astronomers on Earth detect these flickers, tiny changes in brightness, and from them piece together stories of what happens here, at a distance too vast to ever touch. In their telescopes, the light carries secrets of matter's final steps, the whispers of gas circling into silence. You find yourself mesmerized by the balance between chaos and harmony. Dust clouds crash violently, yet the entire disk forms a smooth, thin structure, as though an invisible sculptor shapes the turbulence into order. You think of rivers on Earth, how water tumbles over rocks, foams and splashes, but then downstream it smooths into a clear current. The disk is like that river, chaotic at the level of droplets, graceful when seen as a whole. There is an elegance in this inevitability. The matter does not question its path. It turns, collides, glows, and eventually surrenders to the horizon. Yet in surrendering, it creates. Its final moments are luminous, feeding the black hole not only with mass but with light. Out of collapse, brilliance emerges. Out of falling, radiance rises. You close your eyes and imagine drifting alongside a stream of gas, carried around and around the black hole. You feel the heat rising, not as discomfort, but as a steady warmth. You sense the motion, not dizzying but rhythmic, like the turning of waves on a shore. You are part of the disk now, circling endlessly, caught in the quiet rhythm of matter at the brink. And as you circle, you begin to notice something else, something less visible but no less powerful. Threads of force stretching outward, unseen yet undeniable. The particles of the disk are not moving alone. They are tangled in fields of magnetism, invisible lines that twist and pull. You cannot see them clearly yet, only feel their presence. Like the soft tug of a current beneath the surface of a sea, they are there, shaping the dance in ways you're only beginning to understand. The black hole silence continues, but the disk has given it a voice of light and motion. The dance is unending, yet within it, new mysteries arise. For though matter is drawn inward, not all of it disappears. Some will find escape, not outward into space as before, but upward, guided by forces unseen. You let that thought linger as your body grows heavier with rest. The whirlpool spins before your closed eyes, glowing softly, turning without end. You breathe in its rhythm, letting it calm you, letting it slow your own racing thoughts. The dance of matter is not yet the end of the story. It is the beginning of another. For hidden within those glowing spirals are invisible hands, magnetic threads that will weave chaos into something even more astonishing. And you begin to wonder gently what happens when those unseen lines tighten and pull, when the particles you watch so calmly are lifted into paths you cannot yet see. You float within the glow of the swirling accretion disk, where matter circles endlessly, caught between falling and resisting. At first, you see only brightness, collisions, heat, and light. But as your vision lingers, you notice there is something else at work here, something less visible but no less powerful. It is not chaos alone that shapes this dance. It is the presence of threads, silent, unseen, weaving through the disk like the faint strings of a hidden harp. These are magnetic fields. They do not glow. They do not shine. They do not call attention to themselves the way the swirling light does. And yet, they are everywhere here, stretching, twisting, bending, connecting, like the skeleton within a body. They give shape without being seen. Like the wind guiding leaves, they move particles without a visible hand. You drift closer and sense their influence. Imagine a single charged particle, a lonely electron, caught in the spinning heat. Left alone, it would move freely, colliding, bouncing, tumbling wherever chance might take it. But in the presence of a magnetic field, its path changes. The particle begins to spiral, tracing an invisible line, following it like a bead on a string. It cannot escape. The field holds it, steady but unseen. You picture these particles as dancers on a floor. Without music, they move without coordination, colliding, stumbling, spinning alone. But the magnetic fields are like the soft notes of a melody drifting across the floor. The dancers align, step into rhythm, and suddenly their movements flow together. The chaos becomes a kind of choreography. The disk you gaze upon is full of such dancers, billions upon billions of charged particles, moving in spirals, following the invisible lines of force. The fields twist them upward and downward, guiding them into motion that seems impossibly organized for something born of such turbulence. You wonder where these magnetic fields come from. They are not simply placed here. They are born from the very motion of the disk itself. When charged particles move, they create tiny currents. When many particles move together in the swirling disk, those currents reinforce one another and magnetic fields emerge. Then, in turn, the fields shape the motion of the particles. Cause and effect feed into one another, a feedback loop that sustains itself. The disk is not just spinning matter. It is a cosmic dynamo, generating invisible threads that guide its own future. The image comforts you, this idea that out of motion, structure appears. That what seems chaotic at first glance carries hidden patterns, unseen frameworks. It is as though the universe refuses to let chaos remain chaos forever. Always, somewhere in the dance, order arises. You close your eyes and imagine these magnetic lines as harp strings stretching through space. Each particle that spirals along them plucks the string softly, producing no sound that your ears can hear, but sending vibrations nonetheless. Together, the countless plucks create a resonance, not of music but of structure. The field hums silently, keeping time with the turning disk. Sometimes the strings twist, pulled tighter and tighter by the spinning motion of matter. When they snap or reconnect, the release of energy is fierce, bursts of light and motion that ripple outward. Astronomers call these events reconnections, but to you they feel like chords suddenly struck on that unseen harp, notes of fire played in silence. You drift farther from the glowing disk and look at its edges. You see streams of particles rising, leaving the disk not inward but upward, guided along the magnetic lines. It is here, in these faint beginnings, that the great jets of black holes are born. You cannot yet see them in their full glory, but you can feel a potential building, waiting, coiled. The magnetism is not harsh. It does not force. It guides. It shapes. Its grip is firm but not violent. You think of it like a shepherd's crook, gently directing the flock, keeping them from scattering, nudging them into a path, or like the flow of air over a bird's wing, invisible but essential, allowing lift and flight. Without it, the particles would scatter into nothing. With it, they move with purpose, drawn into streams that will stretch across galaxies. The beauty of this unseen order soothes you. In your own life, too, there are invisible threads, habits, memories, unseen influences that guide your choices and paths. Sometimes you notice them, sometimes you do not. But like the magnetic fields here, they quietly shape your motion. They are the structure behind the dance of your own days. As you drift in the warmth of the glowing disk, you let this thought settle. The universe is not only chaos. It is not only destruction. Within the storm, hidden lines of order exist, unseen but steady. The particles do not resist them. They move along them, trusting the guidance. You, too, can trust unseen hands, unseen rhythms, unseen harmonies guiding you forward. The magnetic fields here are strong enough to grip particles, moving near the speed of light, strong enough to bend the course of matter meant to fall into darkness. And yet, they are invisible, untouchable, impossible to grasp directly. They remind you that power does not always need to be loud, or visible, or dramatic. Sometimes the most lasting influence is quiet, unseen, and constant. Time drifts by slowly, though here time itself is bent and twisted by gravity and speed. You breathe gently, feeling the rhythm of the disk, feeling the silent hum of an invisible harp. Around you, the charged particles glow, spiral, move. They are not random anymore. They are guided. You begin to sense how this guidance will grow, how the magnetic fields, twisting and tightening, will funnel particles into streams so focused, so precise, they can pierce the fabric of space itself. The seeds of the jets are here, waiting, woven into the quiet lines of force. But for now, you simply rest in their presence, comforted by their calm persistence. You imagine yourself held by invisible threads as well, safe, supported, guided through the vastness. The black hole waits still, silent, hidden at the center. The glowing disk spins, furious yet graceful. And through it all, magnetic lines stretch and twist, weaving the fabric of motion, preparing for what comes next. Soon, you will see what happens when gravity and light, matter and magnetism all meet in the crucible at the edge of a black hole. Soon, you will witness the moment when these invisible lines ignite the birth of jets that shine brighter than galaxies. But for now, you float quietly among magnetic threads you cannot see, sensing their gentle, unbreakable pull. You stand in a place where light itself seems uncertain, a place where direction loses its meaning, where up and down blur into the same endless pull. Gravity is no longer the quiet companion you have known on Earth, the gentle tug that holds your feet to the soil. Here, it is immense, overwhelming, a silent ruler whose commands cannot be ignored. You feel it as a weightless heaviness, a paradox tugging at your very sense of being. Time, too, begins to change shape in this realm. The moments stretch thin, like strands of honey drawn slowly from a spoon, each second longer, thicker, more reluctant to pass. The clock that ticks in your chest, your heartbeat, seems almost out of step with the universe around you. This is where gravity meets light, and in that meeting, reality begins to bend. You imagine a beam of starlight entering this domain. On Earth, it would fly straight, steady, an arrow of radiance cutting through air. But here, gravity reaches out like an invisible hand, curving it gently, tugging it sideways, making it trace an arc through the dark. Light, the swiftest travel you know, must bow its head and follow the path laid down by gravity's invisible map. It is not just space that bends, but also time itself. You picture a traveler skimming near this gravitational well, perhaps circling the edge of a black hole. To them, minutes pass like minutes. But to you, watching from afar, their minutes stretch into hours, years, lifetimes. Time slows where gravity is strongest, so much so that you can see the future galaxies unfold, while another sees only the slow blink of an eye. In this meeting of gravity and light, you sense that the universe is not as rigid as it once seemed. Rules melt into one another. Forces entwine. What you thought were separate rivers, space, time, light, matter, merge into a single current. You rest in the stillness, feeling how fragile your own perception is. What is time if it can bend? What is distance if light itself can curve? What is identity if the rules that shape the body and the mind are woven into a fabric that can twist and fold? The silence is not empty. It hums. Particles move unseen. Fields vibrate in ways you cannot touch. This is a quiet stage from which great violence is born, the birthplace of cosmic jets. You close your eyes and imagine them. Streams of matter hurled outward, faster than comprehension, narrow beams of light, and energy shooting across millions of light years. They emerge not from calm skies, but from this boundary where gravity and light wrestle endlessly. Black holes spin, pulling in matter, compressing it beyond sight. Yet from their poles, like paradoxes given wings, jets erupt outward with unstoppable force, carrying fragments of stars and whispers of ancient gas into the universe. How can such opposites exist side by side? How can collapse give rise to release? You feel the contradiction deep in your chest, the way inhaling requires exhaling, the way holding demands letting go. You picture these jets as arrows piercing the dark fabric of the cosmos, guiding your eye from one galaxy to another. Like lighthouses, they mark the places where unseen giants live. Without them, much of the universe would remain hidden, its greatest engines cloaked in shadow. But jets announce their presence with fierce, shining signatures, proof that even the strongest prisons cannot keep every secret. The more you linger here, the more you sense that this meeting of gravity and light is not just a boundary, but a lesson. It shows you that opposites are not enemies. They are partners in a larger dance. Gravity bends light, but in that bending, beauty is revealed. Time slows, but in that slowing, perspective is granted. Matter collapses inward, yet streams outward in new form. You begin to feel that this is not violence at all, but transformation. A reminder that endings are also beginnings, that the deepest darkness can give rise to radiant outpourings. You drift in thought, tracing how this connection between gravity and light echoes within you. Your own life, too, bends under unseen pulls. Choices curve your path. Memories slow or quicken your sense of time. Loss collapses inward, yet somehow gives rise to energy that moves you forward. You are not separate from these cosmic truths. You are an echo of them, written in smaller form. As you rest in this awareness, the universe seems less alien. Its extremes become mirrors of your own inner extremes. Where there is collapse, there is release. Where there is slowing, there is depth. Where there is bending, there is a new shape to behold. Your breath follows the rhythm of this truth, slow and tidal. Each inhale feels like gathering, each exhale like letting go. You are gravity. You are light. You are the meeting place where both must bow to one another. And as you sink deeper into the stillness, the hum of the cosmos grows faintly louder. It feels as though something is calling you forward, toward the very structures that rise from this bending, stretching fabric. For where gravity meets light, another truth awaits, one that speaks not only of bending, but of building. You are standing at the edge of silence, where gravity should only pull downward, deeper, endlessly inward. For so long, you've been tracing the spirals of falling matter, the slow descent of gas and dust, the tightening circles around an invisible well. Everything has been pulled toward the same fate, toward collapse, toward swallowing, toward vanishing. Yet here, something different begins to happen. Instead of surrendering to the pull, some of the matter finds another way, not down but out, not silence but release. It is a moment both violent and delicate. You feel it as if the universe is holding its breath and then exhaling sharply through a narrow reed. The black hole that has been devouring without end suddenly becomes a kind of instrument, shaping jets of energy that burst into space. Matter that once seemed destined for disappearance now becomes light, heat, and motion, rushing outward at speeds nearly brushing against the edge of light itself. You see the shape of the funnels first. Invisible fields of magnetism rise like unseen pillars, tall and thin, reaching far above and below the swirling disk. They are not built of stone or metal. They are woven of force itself, threading through space in patterns you cannot touch but can feel, like the tension in a taut string. These magnetic lines catch charged particles, and instead of letting them fall, they guide them upward. Like rivers flowing against a pull of mountain slope, the particles climb, and then release. Narrow beams of energy lance outward, straight and unwavering, cutting across the dark like arrows fired from a cosmic bow. They are thin, but they stretch impossibly far. Imagine a lighthouse beam that doesn't fade as it travels, but grows stronger as it moves, touching shores millions of light years away. That is the power of these jets. You watch as they pierce the black canvas, carving paths through the silent ocean of stars. You realize that what you're seeing is more than light. Inside these jets are particles, stripped and hurled at speeds almost indistinguishable from light's own. There are electrons, protons, atomic fragments, tiny travelers carried on the back of energy. They leave the neighborhood of the black hole with violence that feels like birth, like an eruption of something long suppressed. The scale overwhelms you. If Earth sat in the path of one of these jets, it would be scorched in an instant. Yet, from this distance, they look almost graceful, threads of fire embroidered on the night. They hold within them not only destruction, but also creation. For these jets do not simply vanish into emptiness. They carry energy into the wider galaxy, stirring clouds of gas, compressing them, igniting new stars. Out of the fury, new constellations are born. You pause with this thought. A black hole, the most fearsome devourer of matter, can also be a midwife of galaxies. Its hunger and its release are part of the same rhythm, a breathing of the cosmos that is both taking and giving. The jets themselves are mystery still. Scientists look at them through radio telescopes, mapping their long arms as they extend across intergalactic space. Some jets span hundreds of thousands of light years, so long that a beam leaving the heart of the galaxy might stretch across its spiral arms and keep going, reaching into the void beyond. To imagine such a scale is to feel very small, but not in a way that diminishes you. Instead, it feels like standing at the foot of a waterfall so immense that you cannot see where it begins, but you can feel it spray on your skin. You think about the speed, how close to light these particles travel. Light itself is the fastest messenger in the universe, and yet here are particles daring to chase it, almost keeping up. They remind you of sparks flung from a fire, carried upward on air currents, rising higher than you expect before fading. Except these sparks do not fade. They continue, tirelessly, for millions of years, carry within the story of the moment they were born. It is strange to realize that some of the radio waves we detect on Earth, picked up by great dishes spread across deserts and mountaintops, began their journey in these very jets. What you see now, this release of energy, is not only a spectacle but also a message, a cosmic signal written in magnetism and speed. By reading it, scientists have begun to piece together the nature of black holes, even though we cannot see the holes themselves. As you drift in this thought, you imagine standing at the edge of one of these jets. The airless silence would not carry sound, yet you feel a hum vibrating through you, as if the particle's motion is a kind of music too low to hear. You picture as a long, sustained note, trembling with both tension and release. It feels like the universe itself is bowing the strings of an invisible instrument, playing a song that began long before you arrived and will continue long after you are gone. The jets are not steady forever. Like breaths, they come and go, depending on how much matter falls toward a black hole and how the magnetic field align. Some flare brightly, then fade. Others hold for eons, unwavering. In this, you sense a lesson. Even the most violent outpourings of energy are bound to rhythms, to cycles, to balance. You let your thoughts wander further, following one of the jets as it leaves the galaxy. It travels through intergalactic space, where stars thin out and distances widen into a nearly unimaginable emptiness. Yet still it goes, carrying its energy forward, scattering seeds of creation far from its birthplace. You realize you are watching a story unfold on a scale larger than galaxies themselves. The paradox settles quietly into you, how the darkest object can become a source of light, how what seems like an end can become a beginning. The black hole does not simply consume, it transforms. It takes in matter, and under the right conditions, it returns part of it, hurled outward with unimaginable force. You find comfort in that cycle. Even here, in the harshest corners of physics, there is balance. Your eyes follow the thin beams until they fade into the distance. They do not truly end. You know they keep going, but from here they disappear, becoming threads lost in the weave of the cosmos. Still, the impression lingers. The image of release, of transformation, of energy flung into the infinite, stays with you. You wonder what it would feel like to be one of those particles, trapped, falling, circling endlessly around a black hole's pull, until suddenly you are caught by a magnetic hand and lifted upward, accelerated beyond imagination, freed from the fate of collapse. You would know what it means to be released. You would know what it means to escape. The thought comforts you. It tells you that even in the places where gravity seems unbreakable, there are ways out. Even in the darkest traps, there are paths of release. You linger in that space between destruction and creation, watching the jets burn their lines into the night. They are narrow, but they are also infinite, reaching beyond what you can see. You realize you are standing not at the end of a story, but at the threshold of another. For as these jets pierce the cosmos, they do more than carry matter outward. They also carry information, signals written in light, particles, and magnetism. And those signals travel, reaching far-off observers, telling the story of what happened here. The question comes softly to you. If matter can be transformed into message, what else can the universe tell us? You are still watching the release, the sudden awakening of energy, but now it no longer belongs only to the region near the black hole. It spreads, it stretches, it points outward like an arrow flung from the bow of gravity itself. You see jets, narrow and impossibly long, erupting from the poles of the black hole. Streams of particles pushed to nearly the speed of light. They blaze like cosmic lighthouses, unwavering and sharp, their brightness able to outshine entire galaxies. You follow one beam with your imagination, tracing its path outward, and you realize it does not stop after a few light years or even a few thousand. It can travel millions. It extends a thread laid across the fabric of the cosmos, impossibly thin yet impossibly strong. The scale feels ungraspable, But you are not asked to measure it. You are asked only to feel its direction, its persistence, the way it holds its aim across the endless drift of stars. Like a needle through cloth, the jet pierces the universe with delicate accuracy, sewing together regions of space that might otherwise never touch. You breathe slowly as you imagine what this means. A single point, a black hole hidden within a galaxy, has become the origin of a structure stretching across intergalactic distances. It is as though the smallest of whirlpools has sent a ripple that never stops, a gesture so powerful it reshapes the waters of an entire ocean. The brightness of these beams is not ordinary light, though they shine fiercely enough to be seen across cosmic time. They are streams of charged particles, wrapped in spiraling magnetic fields. Each twist of the field confines and directs them, guiding them with invisible hands. It is magnetism that allows them to remain narrow, to resist scattering, to stay coherent across distances so immense they should dissolve. Without those guiding fields, the jets would blur into the background, just another flow of matter. But instead, they cut sharp lines through the darkness. As you watch in your mind, you picture the jet as a river of light, racing faster than your ability to follow. Every atom inside is caught in motion, accelerated so violently that they glow, radiating energy that telescopes on Earth can see billions of years later. The brightness is a reminder. Even from unimaginable distances, the universe leaves signatures, signs of its own restlessness. You begin to sense that these beams are not only impressive in scale, but essential in purpose. They are not accidents, not waste. They play roles in shaping galaxies. When the jets strike the gas that floats between stars, they heat it, stir it, prevent it from collapsing too quickly. They sculpt the environments around them, regulating how stars are born. Without them, galaxies might form too rapidly, burning through their gas in violent bursts. With them, galaxies grow in measured rhythms, their evolution stretched across eons. So you see, what begins as destruction, matter falling to a black hole, becomes creation. The collapse and hunger gravity gives rise to the shaping hand of jets. What feels like an ending becomes a kind of balance. Energy leaves, but in doing so, it ensures a galaxy does not consume itself too fast. It is a paradox, but one that makes sense here. In the cosmos, even loss becomes a form of giving. You drift with this thought, letting it settle. The beam becomes more than a phenomenon. It becomes a metaphor. You imagine yourself as a point, small in comparison to the universe, yet also capable of sending ripples farther than you can see. Perhaps your words, your actions, your quietest gestures are like these jets, focused narrow, but extending outward across time in ways you cannot measure. You never know how far their influence will reach or what balance they might shape. The beam continues, traveling through the cosmic dark. Along its path, it encounters clouds of gas, igniting them like sparks on a trail. Pockets of matter glow as the jet energizes them, and these become new lights, small galaxies of brightness born from the contact. It is as though the beam writes across the void, leaving temporary signatures, brief testaments to the reach of invisible forces. You feel a deep calm as you follow it, because there is rhythm here. The black hole consumes. The jet releases. The galaxy balances. The cycle is patient, not hurried. It reminds you that in a universe measured in billions of years, there is no need to rush. Everything unfolds in its time, each process finding equilibrium, no matter how violent it first appears. You begin to notice the symmetry. Two jets, not one, pointing in opposite directions. They mirror each other across the black hole, like two arrows launched back to back. Together they define an axis, a straight line to the galaxy's heart. It feels almost like breath, an inhale and an exhale, though stretched into a scale that dwarfs imagination. This symmetry makes the jets beautiful in more than a scientific way. It makes them graceful, like a cosmic dancer spinning, arms outstretched, energy flowing in perfect balance. As you picture this, you sense how small your own world is, and yet the feeling is not diminishing. Instead, it feels freeing. To be small in a universe so vast is to be released from the pressure of control. You do not need to command the cosmos. You are simply part of its flow, and in that there is peace. The jets shine on, their brightness lasting millions of years. Even after the black hole's feeding slows, even after the core quiets, the evidence of the jets remains. Lobes of glowing gas, inflated at the ends of the beams, linger like scars across space. They are the echoes of an outburst, memories preserved in light and shape. In them, the history of the galaxy is written, a reminder of a time when energy burst outward with unstoppable force. You let your thoughts linger on that word, memory. The universe remembers, even if slowly, even if faintly. The beams are its way of leaving a trace, as if to whisper, something powerful once happened here. The night feels softer as you rest in this realization. You imagine galaxies across the universe, each with their hidden centers, each perhaps releasing their beams. The sky is full of lines you cannot see, threads of energy weaving through the dark, stitching galaxies together in patterns you have yet to understand. The immensity humbles you, but it also makes you feel at home, as though you are a thread woven into that same cloth. You exhale slowly. The beams, though vast, are not infinite. Eventually they fade, their energy spent, their brilliance dimmed. But the structures they create remain, long-lasting marks of their journey. And this makes you wonder, if the beams themselves fade, but the marks remain, then perhaps the true story is not about the light, but about what it shapes. Your thoughts turn gently to what might come next. If jets can carry energy so far, across the emptiness, what else might the universe use to connect its distant parts? What other forces move invisibly between galaxies, subtle but profound, waiting to be noticed? You find yourself floating again, as if held within the gentle breath of the universe. The jets that once appeared as rivers of light still stretch before you, impossibly thin, impossibly long, their beams etched into space, as though some cosmic artist pressed a brush across the black canvas. You move closer now, not only to see them, but to sense them. The particles within, each smaller than a speck of dust, surge forward at nearly the speed of light. And as they move, something shifts, not in the space around them, but in time itself. You breathe slowly and imagine yourself shrinking down, until you're no longer the size of a drifting traveler, but instead as small as one of these racing particles. To the outside universe, it may seem like you travel for millions of years. Yet from your perspective, nestled in the heart of the beam, the journey feels shorter. Distances shrink, moments compress. Time bends itself into something softer, more forgiving. This is relativity at work, the deep, quiet law that Einstein uncovered. It does not roar or shout. It hums, subtle as the pulse of your own heart. You can almost hear it now, a background rhythm that guides a flow of galaxies and stars. As you drift with the beam, you notice that what seems enormous from afar becomes manageable from within. Imagine a road that stretches endlessly across a desert. If you were to walk it step by step, you would feel its immensity, every mile heavy upon your body. But if you could shift the way you experience distance itself, if the very road beneath you folded, shortened, you might cross it with ease. This is what relativity offers the particles. Their road to the cosmos is no shorter in reality, yet to them, it feels so. The universe, you realize, is not rigid. It is pliable, like fabric that responds to weight and motion. The faster something moves, the more the weave bends, adjusting the relationship between time and distance. You have always lived within time, measured by clocks and calendars, but here you feel its deeper truth. Time is not a constant tick. It is a river that can slow, speed, or twist depending on how you travel. The jet beams rely on this. Without relativity, their particles might scatter, weaken, dissolve into space. Instead, Einstein's principles act like a shepherd's staff, guiding them, keeping them narrow and precise even across unimaginable distances. What begins near a black hole's core does not simply fade into darkness. It is carried forward, sharpened, reinforced by the very nature of time itself. You pause, letting this realization settle. Imagine holding a ribbon of light in your hands. If you pull gently at both ends, it stretches taut, holding form. If you release, it slackens, losing shape. Relativity is the unseen hand that keeps the ribbon drawn tight, allowing the jets to cut cleanly across galaxies. As you drift beside them, you feel a strange comfort. There is power in knowing the universe is not bound by stiff, unforgiving rules. Instead, it bends. It adapts. And in that bending, new possibilities arise. Your thoughts wander to your own life, the way time feels when you are caught in joy or in sorrow. How a single hour can vanish like a blink when you are at peace, yet drag on endlessly when burdened. Perhaps in some subtle way, your body remembers what the particles know. That time is not absolute, that it is lived differently depending on your path. You let this thought soften your mind. You drift in and out of the particle's perspective, sometimes feeling the vastness of their journey, sometimes the closeness of their moments. The two views exist together, not as contradictions, but as complementary truths. Around you, the jets remain steady, like lighthouse beams cast into a dark sea. They guide not only through space, but through the strange terrain of relativity itself. You begin to sense that Einstein's work was not just mathematics scribbled on paper, but a kind of poetry woven into the fabric of reality. His equations whisper the same message these beams embody, that space and time are not separate things, but a single tapestry, one that stretches and flexes with motion and energy. You recall how light itself bends when it brushes past a massive star, how gravity curves the path of beams just as water curves the current of a river. The jets, in their astonishing precision, also reveal this truth. They are not merely light. They are particles bound to the same cosmic fabric as you. And so their journey is not simply a flight through emptiness, but a dialogue with space and time themselves. You imagine Einstein sitting quietly at his desk, pondering the speed of light. He may never have dreamed that his insights would one day explain these colossal structures. Yet here you are, watching relativity play out not in abstract thought, but in blazing arcs that span galaxies. It humbles you. It softens you. It makes you feel part of something far larger, yet intimately close. The particles around you hum with energy, their voices too faint to hear, yet their message clear. The faster we go, the more the universe changes shape. They remind you that speed is not only a matter of motion, it is a transformation of experience. At near-light velocities, the ordinary rules dissolve. Time contracts, distance bends, and impossible becomes possible. You picture yourself riding alongside them forever, never tiring, never aging, because to you, within this stream, time itself would nearly stop. Outside, eons would pass. Stars would burn out, galaxies would drift apart. But you, in your luminous current, would still be mid-journey. This thought both unsettles and soothes you. It reminds you the fragile balance between motion and stillness, change and constancy. Your breathing slows. You let yourself sway with the current, neither resisting nor forcing, simply flowing. The jets continue their endless path, sculpted by relativity's invisible hand. Each moment feels timeless, as though you could remain here forever. Yet you know that forever itself is not fixed. It stretches and shrinks, depending on where you stand. As you linger, you feel a tug, gentle but firm, drawing your attention beyond the beams. There are larger forces at work, deeper mysteries yet to unfold. You sense gravity's pull, not only bending paths, but shaping entire galaxies, choreographing the dance of stars. Relativity does not end here, with the narrowing of beams. It continues, wrapping itself around the cosmos, guiding everything from the fall of an apple to the orbit of planets to the collapse of stars. The realization makes you pause and wonder. If time can bend, if distance can shrink, if reality itself can shift depending on motion, then what else lies hidden, waiting to be uncovered? You sense the next question forming, not as a demand, but as a quiet curiosity. You drift once more, letting go of the beam, floating outward, carried by the larger fabric of space-time itself. Ahead lies the heart of gravity's domain, the region where even light struggles to escape. It whispers to you, inviting mysterious, promising deeper understanding. And as you turn toward it, you feel the transition begin. Relativity has guided you here, showing how time and space entwine. But what waits beyond is more than bending. It is the abyss where space and time themselves dissolve. You float in the quiet afterglow of the jets. Their brilliance still lingers in your vision, like the echo of a dream. What once seemed like narrow beams of light and energy now begins to reveal something deeper, not just streams, but hands of creation, sculpting, arranging, shaping the places where galaxies grow. You drift farther back, letting your gaze widen until the scale expands beyond a single black hole, beyond a single galaxy. You see many, a tapestry of galaxies, stitched together by invisible threads of gas and dark matter, begins to spread across the darkness like a living web. It is called the cosmic web, and the jets are among its sculptors. Imagine a drop of ink in water. It does not stay still. It curls outward, stirring currents that ripple and bend, shaping the flow around it. In much the same way, the jets stir the oceans of intergalactic gas. They do not let the gas simply rest in silence. They heat it, they stir it, they spread it, and in their wake, new stars are coaxed into being. You see a cluster of galaxies, huddled like glowing embers in the black. In the middle of one, a jet fires outward like a torch. It pushes against clouds of hydrogen, the raw material of stars. Without the push, the gas might have stayed dormant, too cold to ignite. But with the jet's touch, the clouds collapse and stars are born. Entire constellations will one day emerge, their light scattering across billions of years, all because a jet once passed this way. It is strange to think that destruction and creation can be so entangled. The same jets that start a galaxy by blowing gas away can also awaken another by compressing it. They are sculptors with two hands, one that withholds and one that gives. To you, it feels like breathing. The inhale, gathering inward. The exhale, spilling outward. Galaxies, too, inhale and exhale, their lives shaped by the rhythm of jets. As you drift through this grand web, you notice the scale of the patterns. The filaments of the cosmic web are vast, tendrils of galaxies and gas stretching hundreds of millions of light years. Yet the jets, though born in the heart of single galaxies, can reach across intergalactic space, tracing and reinforcing the very shape of the web itself. It is as if the universe is a great canvas, and these jets are the strokes of a brush. Each stroke is not random. Each leaves behind structure, lines, filaments, voids. Without them, the canvas might be dull, too smooth, too lifeless. With them, the universe becomes textured, dynamic, alive. You imagine yourself as a tiny painter, standing at the edge of this infinite canvas, watching another hand, larger than time itself, sweep broad strokes across the dark. What you see are not accidents, but patterns of balance, of energy spread and energy contained. And yet, even as you admire the artistry, you feel a sense of humility. These patterns are not made for you, not drawn with intention in your direction. They are simply the byproduct of deep laws, the consequence of gravity, magnetism, energy, and time weaving themselves together. Still, you cannot help but feel their beauty. You cannot help but feel as though you are reading poetry written in light and motion. Your thoughts slow, and you let yourself drift closer to one of these filaments. You see galaxies like pearls strung along a strand, each glowing faintly, each alive with its own stars and planets. But in the spaces between, where the strand is thinner, you sense the silence. These voids, vast and empty, are shaped by what the jets leave behind. Imagine wind shaping dunes in a desert. The sand does not resist. It flows where the wind tells it. In the same way, matter flows with the guidance of energy, leaving behind vast deserts of nothingness and valleys rich with stars. The jets are like gusts of cosmic wind, carving, guiding, reminding the universe where its brilliance will cluster. You think about your own breath again, how the air you release stirs the space around you, invisible yet real. Multiply that breath by 1,000,000,000 times 1,000,000,000, and you have the sculpting power of these jets. They are breaths of the cosmos, rising from the darkest hearts, spreading into the widest silence. But there's another layer here, one more delicate, one that makes your chest feel light. These jets may also shape where life itself can someday take root. By controlling the birth of stars, they decide where planets will form. By enriching galaxies with heavy elements, iron, carbon, oxygen, they see the ingredients of oceans, atmospheres, and hearts that beat. You realize into the jet you see before you may have decided billions of years ago whether some distant planet today carries rivers, trees, and eyes that gaze at the stars. The jets are not just sculptors of galaxies. They are sculptors of possibility. You close your eyes and imagine it. Somewhere, far away, an ocean gleams under a blue sky. Somewhere, beings look upward, asking the same questions you do now. Perhaps they too feel the whisper of the cosmic web pulling them toward wonder. The thought fills you with warmth, as though the universe itself has exhaled into you. You are not separate from the sculpture. You are within it, a detail of the canvas, a ripple of its endless art. And still you wonder, these patterns, vast and intricate, feel almost deliberate. But are they? Or are they simply the inevitable outcome of laws written into the bones of reality? When jets sculpt galaxies, are they following a plan or simply flowing like rivers down the slope of time? The silence of the cosmic web does not answer. It only stretches, patient and eternal, while galaxies flicker like candles in its threads. You let yourself drift once more into the distance, feeling the gentle pull of another question rising. If the jets sculpt the universe with such power, with such reach, then what lies behind them? What gives them their direction, their energy, their endurance? You breathe softly, and with your breath, you feel the universe breathe back. The story is not finished. The sculpture is still being drawn. And in the quiet, you sense that the next step of the journey will reveal not just the strokes of the brush, but perhaps the artist behind it. You are surrounded by silence. It feels vast, immeasurable, like a velvet curtain drawn across the stars. Yet in this stillness, there is a voice. It does not shout, and it does not sing in notes you have ever heard. It hums in waves, long and patient, like the steady breathing of the cosmos itself. These waves are radio waves, ripples stretched across unimaginable distances. They are not music in the way you know, yet they are music all the same. They hum with the faint echo of creation, the aftertaste of events so powerful they refuse to vanish into silence. Jets of matter, flung out from galaxies, carry their song across the universe. And though you cannot hear them with your ears, you feel them with your mind. Imagine standing on a cliff above a vast ocean. Winds rush past, waves crash far below. But somewhere in the depths there is a vibration you can sense but cannot name. Radio waves are like that, hidden beneath the visible, steady beneath the chaos. They are the breath of galaxies, carried not in light, not in heat, but in quiet pulses of energy that cross the void like whispers carried in a dream. The universe is never truly silent. Every star, every planet, every wandering cloud of gas contributes to this soft chorus. But the loudest voices come from the jets. Those fountains of particles, hurled outward from the hearts of galaxies, are sculptors not only of form but of sound. They broadcast in radio waves, as if their work upon the cosmic canvas must be told and retold. You drift closer in thought, picturing one of these great jets. It stretches thousands of light years into space, a glowing thread weaving its way through the dark. But beyond the light, beyond what your eyes could see, it radiates in frequencies that seem almost like memory. These frequencies slip past dust and darkness. They cross gulfs of billions of years. And even now, as you breathe, they wash gently across your planet, like ocean waves brushing an unseen shore. To detect them requires a different kind of ear, an ear built of metal, dish-shaped and patient. These are the radio telescopes, scattered like giant listening bowls across Earth. They do not gaze, but listen. They cup the faint signals of the sky, amplify them, and turn them into patterns you can recognize. Through them, the silence becomes audible. Through them, the whispers of galaxies are written into human memory. Imagine standing beside one of these telescopes, under the still sky, the dish towers above you, gleaming white or silver, tilting slowly as if searching the heavens for secrets. To the untrained eye, it seems to do nothing, just a silent structure waiting in the night. But in truth, it is hearing the echoes of ancient storms. It is catching the quiet rumble of matter rushing through cosmic jets. It is tracing a story written long before your world was born. And you realize something profound. Radio waves carry time itself. They are not only signals, but memories. When you hear the hum of a distant quasar, you are not hearing it as it is now. You are hearing it as it once was billions of years ago. Every wave is a fragment of history, arriving late, but arriving still. They tell you of how the universe was shaped, how energy moved, how galaxies evolved. They tell you where matter gathered, where stars kindled, where perhaps life itself might one day awaken. Think of it as listening to a lullaby sung by someone long gone, a voice that still carries through the air because the song was too strong to disappear. That is what these echoes are, reminders that nothing in the universe is wasted, that even in silence there are traces, that memory